Hello, curious minds. Welcome to this intellectual journey where we dismantle the narratives imposed upon us. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that might make you squirm a little, but it's absolutely necessary. A topic that defines our era and our daily decisions. Surely you've felt that little surge of pride when choosing a product with an eco label. That reusable shopping bag, that fair trade coffee, that bamboo toothbrush. You believe you're doing your part, voting with your money for a better world, and that intention is noble, it's genuine. But, and this is the big question we're going to explore, what if I told you that very feeling of pride has been engineered? That this choice, instead of changing the system, might actually be strengthening the very thing it seeks to combat. Brace yourself, because we're about to unveil the great paradox. To begin, we need to understand that sustainability didn't just pop up yesterday. It emerged as a cry for help from science and communities witnessing their ecosystems vanish. It was a call to conscience, a plea for real and profound change in how we live and produce. The original idea was revolutionary. It implied reducing, reusing, and only as a last resort, recycling. It was about a paradigm shift, moving from a linear take, make, dispose economy to a circular one where nothing is wasted. It was a philosophy of sufficiency, not excess. So what happened along the way? The answer is simple and brutal. The consumerist system, that defining force of the last century, did what it does best: absorb the threat, repackage it, and sell it back to us. A countercultural movement was transformed into a market strategy. This is where a key concept comes in: greenwashing. It's the term used when a company spends more money and effort advertising its eco-friendliness than on actually minimizing its environmental impact. It's the art of looking good without being good. Think about it for a moment. We see cars that pollute less, yet we're encouraged to upgrade models every 2 years. We buy organic cotton clothes, but fast fashion trends push us to refresh our wardrobes every season. The underlying logic hasn't changed. It's merely put on a disguise. Sociologists and market analysts point out that capitalism has an almost magical ability to turn criticism into a new product. The critique of mass consumerism transformed into a market niche: conscious consumerism. But the key word remains the same: consumerism. The system doesn't want you to stop buying. That would be disastrous for it. What it wants is for you to channel your anxiety and guilt into a different type of purchase. One that makes you feel virtuous, that absolves you of your participation in an unsustainable model. It's an individual solution to a systemic problem, and psychologically it's a masterstroke. Consumer psychology studies show that we buy to construct our identity. By purchasing green, we not only acquire an object, but also tell ourselves and others that we are responsible, ethical individuals. The problem is that this feeling of accomplishment can lead to what's known as moral licensing. It's the idea that if you do something good, like recycle, you feel permitted to do something less good later, like taking a long-haul flight. It nullifies the effect. Let's look at a practical example: the packaged food industry. They sell us bio, organic, or natural products wrapped in multiple layers of often non-recyclable plastic. The core message is health, but the actual impact of the packaging is terrible. Or consider fashion. Brands launch a small line of recycled clothing while producing millions of garments under dubious labor conditions and with low-quality materials, destined to last only a few months. It's a distraction, a magic trick to divert our attention. This creates a dangerous illusion. It makes us believe the solution lies at the supermarket, in the clothing store, at the car dealership. It distracts us from the real debate we should be having, a debate about degrowth, about sufficiency, and about the planet's limits. Real sustainability isn't sexy for marketing. Real sustainability means using the same phone for 10 years. It means mending your clothes instead of buying new ones. It means desiring less, not desiring better things. And that, quite simply, doesn't generate quarterly profits. Cultural anthropologists have studied how our societies shifted from valuing durability to valuing novelty. Before, an object was better the longer it lasted. A watch, a coat, furniture, they were symbols of quality and passed down through generations. That has been lost. Now, the driving force is planned obsolescence. The idea that products are designed to fail or go out of style quickly. Even sustainable products often fall into this logic. Your reusable water bottle from last season is already out of fashion. Now you need the new one. The focus on individual responsibility is also a philosophical trap. It shifts the blame from corporations and governments, who hold the power for structural change, onto the consumer. If the planet is warming, it's your fault for not recycling properly. This burden is immense and paralyzing. It keeps us busy deciding between 100 brands of oat milk while environmental regulations are weakened and large industries continue to operate with impunity. It's a global divide and conquer strategy. Now, this doesn't mean your actions don't matter. Of course they do. Reducing your consumption, making conscious choices, and participating in your community are powerful acts. But we can't stop there. We can't believe the solution ends when we swipe our credit card. Real change is less glamorous. It involves demanding accountability. It involves supporting legislation that forces companies to be transparent about their supply chains. It involves pushing cities for better public transportation and waste management systems. It essentially means shifting the focus of our identity, moving from primarily being consumers back to being citizens. A citizen participates, demands, and builds. A consumer merely chooses from the options given to them, and that's the fundamental difference the system doesn't want you to see. The next time you're faced with a product marketed as the definitive solution to the world's problems, pause. Ask yourself, does this product encourage me to buy less in the future, or does it simply make me feel good about buying it today? The answer to that question is revealing. The conclusion is harsh but liberating. Sustainability as a market trend is, to a large extent, a mirage. It's consumerism's latest and most ingenious product, one that sells absolution for our environmental sins without demanding true sacrifice. True sustainability is an act of rebellion. It's a conscious decision to step off the hamster wheel of constant dissatisfaction that fuels consumption. It's finding happiness in what we already have, in our relationships and experiences, not in our next acquisition. So no, buying an organic cotton t-shirt isn't going to save the world, but understanding why it's being sold to you with such fervor, that truly can be the first step to starting real change. Awareness is the first battleground. We've seen how a noble ideal was absorbed by the market, how our psychology is exploited to keep us buying, and how responsibility is deflected onto us. It's a complex landscape, no doubt, but it's not a dead-end street if we know where to look. The real solution isn't in a product, but in a process of learning, questioning, and collective action. It requires us to be more skeptical of marketing and more empathetic towards the planet and each other. It requires profound cultural change. We must learn to differentiate between cardboard cutout sustainability and real sustainability. The first asks for your money, the second asks for your time, your intelligence, and your commitment. One is easy, the other is hard. Guess which one has the power to truly change things? Large corporations have invested billions in perfecting this message. They have entire departments dedicated to studying how we behave, what motivates us, and above all, what makes us feel guilty. Guilt is an incredibly powerful sales tool. When you buy an eco-friendly product, you're not just paying for the item, you're also paying for the relief of that guilt. It's a modern form of indulgence. And as such, it allows you to continue participating in the system without feeling bad about it, which is brilliant for business. Consider the language they use. Words like pure, natural, earth, conscious. These are evocative terms that appeal to our deepest emotions, to a yearning for connection with something more authentic in an artificial world. It's poetry in service of profit. This strategy is so effective because it exploits real cognitive dissonance. We know our lifestyle comes at a cost, but radically changing it is difficult and daunting. Green consumption offers an easy way out, a shortcut that allows us to maintain our lifestyle and a clear conscience. Another aspect to consider is the elitism that often surrounds market-driven sustainability. Organic products, sustainable designer clothing, electric cars, they tend to be much more expensive, turning the act of saving the planet into a social status symbol. This creates a divide. Those who can afford to buy green feel superior, while those who cannot are seen as ignorant or irresponsible. It completely ignores that people with fewer resources are, by necessity, the ones who consume the least and reuse the most. True ecological heroism is often found in the practices of our grandparents, not in the aisles of a luxury supermarket. In fixing what's broken, cooking from scratch to avoid waste, using public transport, actions that don't generate headlines and can't be sold. The green consumption narrative also sells us the idea of a painless technological solution. It tells us we don't have to change our habits because innovation will create products that are good for the environment. The electric car is the perfect example of this mindset. While electric cars don't emit tailpipe gases, the extraction of minerals for their batteries, like lithium and cobalt, is extremely environmentally and socially destructive. Furthermore, the electricity that powers them often comes from burning fossil fuels. It's not to say that technology is bad, but to warn against blind faith that it will save us without us having to make any effort. It's a way to postpone difficult decisions, to hope for a miracle while sticking to the same old model. So how do we start dismantling this lie in our own lives? The first step is information. Research beyond the label. Ask who owns the sustainable brand. Often it's the same multinationals causing the problems. The second step is to change the question. Instead of asking, what's the most sustainable option to buy? Start asking, do I really need to buy this? This simple question is a revolutionary act in a culture that constantly tells us we need more. The third step is to reconnect with the real value of things, not their price, but their worth. The time and resources it took to make it, the hands that crafted it. When we understand that, the act of discarding something lightly becomes much harder. This leads us to appreciate the skill of repair. In a throwaway world, knowing how to fix something is a superpower. It's a declaration of independence from the consumption cycle. It's reclaiming control over our own possessions, something we've largely relinquished. Philosophers like the Stoics spoke of this thousands of years ago. The idea of finding happiness in virtue and self-sufficiency, not in external possessions. They teach us to desire what we already have, a message radically opposed to all modern advertising. Therefore, the most effective resistance is cultural. It's about building communities that value other things, that value shared time, creativity, knowledge, mutual aid, things that cannot be bought and that in fact diminish when we focus only on buying. Ultimately, the trap of sustainability as a product is that it keeps us isolated. It makes us believe we are solitary heroes battling with our shopping cart. But global problems like climate change or inequality have never been solved by isolated individual actions. They are solved by social movements, by political pressure, by people organizing to demand a different world. True sustainability is collective or it isn't. It starts in our minds, but it must flourish in the public square, not just in the shopping mall. So yes, keep choosing carefully, but don't let that choice be the end of your commitment. Let it be the beginning. Let every green product remind you of the system's fragility and the urgency of looking far beyond the label. Recycling, for example, has been promoted as one of the great solutions. But the reality is that a large portion of what we put in the recycling bin never actually gets recycled. Often it's cheaper for companies to use virgin materials. Furthermore, the recycling process itself consumes a considerable amount of energy and water. It's certainly a better solution than landfilling, but it falls far short of the first two R's we've forgotten: reduce and reuse. Those don't generate as much business. Let's look at energy. They sell us the idea of switching to energy-efficient light bulbs, which is fine. But this small efficiency can be completely erased by an increase in other consumption. This is known as Jevons paradox. Efficiency increases overall consumption. Because if your electricity bill drops, you might feel entitled to buy a new electronic device or leave the lights on longer. Efficiency, without a mindset shift towards sufficiency, doesn't solve the fundamental problem of increasing consumption. The tourism industry has also adopted ecotourism. They sell you trips to remote, pristine locations to connect with nature. But the very act of flying there generates a massive carbon footprint that often negates any benefit. It's another way of consuming nature itself as an exotic product, an Instagrammable experience. True connection with nature could be something much simpler and closer to home, like tending a local park or understanding plant cycles in your own garden. The system has led us to believe that activism is a shopping list, that our primary tool for change is our wallet. This is a very limited and passive view of our power as human beings. Our real power lies in our voice, our creativity, and our ability to organize. The stories we tell ourselves shape our reality, and the dominant story is that happiness can be bought. Sustainability as a product doesn't challenge that narrative. It merely adds a new green chapter to it. The task is to start telling a different story. A story where status doesn't come from what you own, but from what you contribute. Where wealth isn't measured in possessions, but in relationships and free time. Where success is a thriving community and a healthy environment, not a bloated bank account. This narrative shift is an existential threat to a system based on infinite growth on a finite planet. That's why it will fight with all its might to keep us distracted with its green products, so we never get around to questioning the fundamental premise. The next time you see an ad promising to save the planet with a simple purchase, smile, because you already know the trick. And knowing the trick is the first step to not falling for it. It's the awakening of critical consciousness. Let's remember, we're not the first generation to face this. Movements like minimalism or voluntary simplicity have been talking about these issues for decades. They are wellsprings of wisdom we can draw upon to find ways to live better with less. It's not about living in a cave and giving up all technology. It's about being intentional, consciously choosing what role possessions play in our lives, instead of letting advertising and social pressure decide for us. The system wants us anxious, dissatisfied, and constantly comparing ourselves to others, because a content, self-assured person isn't a good consumer. Inner peace is marketing's #1 enemy. Real sustainability starts there. This reflection doesn't aim to generate despair, but quite the opposite. It seeks to empower us. By understanding the system's logic, we stop being its pawns. We can start playing our own game, by our own rules, based on our own values. It's a more demanding path, no doubt. It doesn't offer instant solutions or immediate gratification, but it's a more authentic path, and in the long run, far more satisfying. It's the path of building a life with purpose rather than simply consuming one. Green consumerism offers us a placebo. It alleviates the symptom, our guilty conscience, but does nothing to cure the disease, which is the unsustainable production and consumption model. We need to reject the placebo and demand real medicine. Real medicine includes things like carbon taxes, extended producer responsibility laws, massive investment in renewable energy, and a just transition for workers in polluting industries. These are complex issues, not slogans on a package. Our energy is finite. If we spend it all trying to be perfect consumers, we'll have nothing left to be active citizens. The system knows this, which is why it keeps us on the ethical consumption treadmill, always chasing the next perfect product. Stepping off that wheel is an act of personal and political liberation. It's reclaiming our time, our energy, and our attention to focus them on what truly matters. It's a shift in perspective that alters everything, from how we view the news to how we spend our weekends. Advertising has sold us a story of heroic individualism. You, the consumer, can save the world with your choices. It's a very appealing narrative, very American, but it's fundamentally false. The great changes in history have always been collective. Imagine if all the energy we dedicate to researching which brand of shampoo is least harmful, we instead dedicated to organizing a campaign in our community to ban single-use plastics. The impact would be incomparably greater. It's a matter of scale. The system's ultimate goal isn't to destroy the planet. The goal is profit. If planetary destruction is a side effect, they accept it. If selling green products generates more profit, they will do it. There's no evil ideology, just in relentless logic. Understanding this logic allows us not to take it personally. It's not that they want to deceive us. It's that the system is programmed to grow and turn everything into a commodity. Our consciousness, our guilt, our hope, it's all raw material. The next time you feel tempted to buy something to feel better, to calm your climate anxiety, stop, breathe, and instead seek an action that connects you with others, an action that builds community power. That is the antidote. Don't blame yourself for falling into the trap. We all have. It's designed by the brightest minds in advertising and psychology to be almost irresistible. The important step isn't never stumbling, but realizing it and deciding to walk in a different direction. Because at the end of the day, the planet doesn't need more conscious consumers. It needs more awakened citizens. Fewer shoppers and more activists. Fewer people seeking salvation in a product and more people building a different future together. This perspective frees us from the burden of perfection. You don't have to be the perfect environmentalist. You don't have to get everything right. You just have to be aware, be critical, and be willing to act beyond your role as a consumer. That's more than enough. Remember, the system wants to keep you busy and feeling guilty. Rebellion is being informed and organized. Sustainability as a product is the latest great distraction. Don't let it divert you from the real fight, which takes place in communities, in laws, and in ideas. The journey toward a truly sustainable society is long and full of contradictions, but it begins with the intellectual honesty of calling things by their name. And market sustainability is, above all, a business, not a salvation movement. So the question isn't what to buy. The question is what we're going to build together, now that we know the solution isn't on a store shelf. True power has always been in our hands, not in our wallets. We've seen how consumerism disguises itself as a solution, using our desire to do good to perpetuate itself. It's a comfortable illusion that absolves us from the difficult task of demanding real structural change. But recognizing the trick is the first step to disarming it. True sustainability isn't bought, it's practiced. It's found in community, in conscious reduction, in repair, and in civic participation. It's a profound shift in values, seeing the world not as a warehouse of resources, but as our only home. Ultimately, the answer to our initial question is clear. Sustainability as a trend is, for the most part, consumerism's latest and most brilliant product. A trap that makes us feel good while the system remains intact. But the fact that you're here, reflecting on this, shows that awareness is growing, that there's a thirst for truth beyond the advertising slogans. And that awareness is the seed of the real change our world desperately needs. The next decision isn't which product to choose. It's what role you're going to play. That of a passive consumer or an active citizen? The choice is ours and the future we build depends on it. Don't underestimate the power of an awakened mind. I hope this deconstruction has provided you with value and a new perspective. Sometimes the most uncomfortable truths are the ones that help us grow the most and push us to act in ways we never thought possible. Thank you for joining me in this much-needed reflection, for daring to look behind the curtain and question the narratives we've been sold. Your curiosity is the most powerful tool you have to navigate this complex world. The real conversation, the one that truly matters, starts now, in the comments. I want to know what you think. Do you believe truly ethical consumption is possible within the current system, or is a radical change the only way out? Your opinion enriches this dialogue. There are no easy answers, but together we can build a deeper understanding. Every comment is another brick in the construction of collective consciousness. Feel free to share your perspective. And if this kind of content that challenges the status quo resonates with you, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Together, we'll continue to uncover the secrets of our society. Until next time, curious minds.